Namaskar. Welcome to Accounting Shiksha channel. Today we are going to learn chapter unit or output costing. In this chapter, we learn how to calculate cost of a product. So before knowing how to calculate it, we need to know what is cost sheet or unit costing or output costing. So the statement or document which is prepared to calculate total cost, budget cost, and cost per unit of product is known as unit or output costing, or it is called as also a cost sheet. So cost per unit can be calculated when total cost of production is divided by number of unit produced. So in this chapter, to understand a cost in in a deep way, we need to know about its element. So some elements of cost are shown in this flow chart. The element of cost are materials, labor, and expenses. These elements are further divided into direct and indirect. Here indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses are classified into three types again. And they are like factory overhead, office and administrative overhead, as well selling and distribution overhead. Factory overhead means those expenses which are related to all the factory expenses, and office and administrative overhead relates to all the expenses related to the office and operation of office, as well to administrative. And similarly, selling and distribution overhead includes all those expenses which are done for selling a product finally to the consumer. Here we have to understand about direct expenses, and I have tried to explain all the direct expenses of three elements like material, labor, expenses in this way. Here those expenses which are directly related with manufacturing a product, means which are directly concerned with the production of a product, those expenses are known as direct expenses. Example: raw material, wages, royalty, etc. Likewise, indirect expenses are those expenses which are incurred in a product but not directly related in production process of a product. Production process of a product, they are those expenses which are done after production of a product. For examples, lubricating wheels, salesmen supervisions, salaries of salesmen, supervisors, rent, power, lighting, and so on. So here the indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses. These indirect expenses are further divided into three parts in the cost sheets, and it is in this way. So I will present first expenses, factory overhead. So it includes all those expenses which are related to the factory. For example, power and fuel, factory lighting, factory works manager salary, factory water supply, insurance, stationery, factory cleaning, office expenses, depreciation of plant and machinery, and all indirect materials, indirect labor under this heading. Similarly, another types of expenses, that is indirect expenses, is office or administrative overhead. Under it we keep all the office expenses like office lighting, office stationery, office rent, depreciation, salaries, management expenses, audit fee, and all other office insurance, and so on. Likewise, the last part, that is selling and distribution overhead. Under it we keeps all the expenses related to selling and distribution. So it goes like this: salesman salaries, commission, showroom expenses, advertisement, traveling expenses, warehouse rent, carries outward, etc. So after knowing these all expenses, we have to know how should we prepare cost sheets. So for that purpose, I'll suggest you in an initial phase with this format, with this specimen, and here to calculate direct material, we have to add purchase of raw material with opening stock of raw material, carries inward of raw material, and less closing stock of raw material, and the sum is called direct material. It is called as material consumed also, value of raw material consumed. So when we add direct material, direct labor, direct expenses, the final sum is known as prime cost. So in this prime cost we have to add factory cost. So after adding factory cost, we should look at opening stock and closing stock of work in progress, whether it is given in question or not. If it is given, opening stock should be added and closing stock should be subtracted. Similarly, after the sum we'll get it factory cost. So with the factory cost we have to add office and administrative expenses, that will give us cost of production. So with the cost of production we have to add opening stock of finished goods less closing stock of finished goods, that will give us cost of goods sold, and in this cost of goods sold we have to add selling and distribution expenses, that will give us total cost, which is the main purpose of this chapter, to calculate the total cost. After we get this total cost, we have to compare the amount with sales. If the question has given us profit, we have to add it. If question has not given us loss, we have to subtract it. The questions, if it has given us sales amount, by comparing total cost and sales we have to calculate this figure. If question has given us profit or loss, so by adding and subtracting we have to calculate the sales revenue. So in this way, with this format we can calculate cost of a product as suggested by this chapter. I hope you have understood little bit. So the one questions is here. So let's try a very simple questions. It has provide us the sales revenue. The question is silence about profit or whether there is loss. Other every expenses, that is direct and indirect, they are given. We don't need to calculate each here. Each on the each overhead over in these questions. So this question is very simple. This question will teach us about how to prepare cost sheet only. So let's see its solution, which I have done here. This is the solution for question number 1. If we add direct material, direct labor, direct expenses, we'll get a prime cost. That's amount is 2,20,000. So simply factory overhead we have to add here 50,000. We can calculate factory cost, which is 2,70,000, and in the figure we have to add office overhead 60,000. So cost of production we have found it to 3,30,000, and in the questions WIP is silent, so because of that cost of production is supposed as cost of goods sold. So we have added selling overhead 20,000 and we have calculated total cost 3,50,000. So the question has not given us profit and loss, but it has given us sales revenue, which is 3,20,000. So if we compare 3,50,000 and 3,20,000, the difference amount should be profit or loss. So in these questions, there is a loss, and the loss is minus 30,000, which I have kept in bracket. So after, if 30,000 is subtracted, we got the answer which is given in the question, that is 3,20,000, and we have solved the problem of cost sheet in this way. Thank you so much for watching. Other more questions will I will keep in the next videos. So before that, I would like to request everyone to subscribe the channel. So if you have any comments, if you have any queries, you can keep it, and if you have any more information regarding this, I request you to keep in the comments also, so that I can do well in the coming days. Saying this much, I would like to thank you for watching these videos and want to say goodbye. Thank you.